Hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Egan. I have the next book in our list of classics. It's called The Story of Ferdinand by Monroe Leaf and drawings by Robert Lawson. It's a pretty simple story, book cover, right? It's also a simple story. It's a great story. But let me get you the information, the story behind the story first, okay? Why is this one on our list? Well, this is an international story. The story takes place in Spain, Madrid, Spain. If you want to go look that up, find out where in the world you are. Why is it on our list? Well, it's on our list because the storyline and the character of Ferdinand, you will see another time in your life somewhere. It is so well known that it has made it into other stories, movies, comic books, even it's made it into the gaming world. There's actually, I think it's called like a non-speaking character or something that is named Ferdinand. There's a character in the gaming world. It is such a good story, classic, that's a word you need to know, that it stood the test of time. That's what this list is all about, that the stories have stood the test of time, that they are as good today as they were when they were first written. Now, this story was, as the story goes, that Mr. Leif came up with this very simple story, mostly because he wanted Robert Lawson, his friend, to be able to draw some really wonderful pictures. I guess Monroe Leif was fairly well known in the story world, but Mr. Lawson was not. And so Monroe said to Robert, hey, what if I write up a story and you can illustrate it? You've got some great talent there, and let's see if we can get it published, because I know some people that you don't know, okay? And I think that's what happened. It is a very simple cover. Do you notice that? Bright red with just black and white. That's it. It's very eye-catching. When you walk, if you were to walk by this, it would probably stand out. So one of the big reasons why it is a red cover is because red is a color often connected with bullfighting, all right? Even though the bull can't see color, it is the color of the cape of the bullfighter. And most of the time, it is the shaking of the cape that gets the bull to go move around. It's not the color. But we have a saying called seeing red. I see red. It means that you're angry, all right? Well, the bullfighter's cape is always red. That's mostly because they're trying to disguise any blood that might come from the fight, because a bull fight, people get hurt. There's blood, and animals get hurt. But it's to disguise the red blood. But if you said something like, I see red, it means that your blood pressure's gone up, your heart rate's gone up, and that now all of the blood in your body is going somewhere and it's making your skin actually look red. It's sometimes referred to as the red mist, okay? Red is also the hottest color in the color wheel, and it's the color of the most emotion. So both anger and love, which are two ends, so anger is really down here, you're angry, you're really not happy, and love is the other end, everything's wonderful and you're very happy. Red is a color that represents both of those, okay? Very important color. I want to show it to you in my packaging because this is how I purchased it. It's a Puffin Storytime, so that's the name of the company that makes this story, but I want to show you something special. Look at what it came with. It comes with a CD. So here, I'll take the book out of the package so that you can see it a little bit better. This is one of those CDs that you could put in a CD player. Sometimes you can put it in a computer, but more likely just a CD player. And it's a read-along, so that what you would do is you would have the book, you would use the book, and it would ding. It would be reading the book to you, and then it would go bring or bing, And that would be your signal to turn the page. I'm sure there's tons of these. My kids used to have tons of these with cassettes when we did them with cassettes. I used to bring this to the preschool all the time, and the children, I would put this into the CD player, and the children could read the book on their own if they didn't want me to read it. Okay, it's a pretty simple book. Doesn't have a ton of text. All right, so we've got The Story of Ferdinand by Munro Leaf. Drawings by Robert Lawson. Here's our half-title page. The Story of Ferdinand by Munro Leaf and illustrated by Robert Lawson. It's a puffin book. So the company that makes this this CD accompaniment also published the book. Okay. There's no dedication in this, which I found kind of interesting. This is all the information. That's the information of the publishers and the dates and where it is in the Library of Congress catalog, but there's no dedication, which is interesting. And even on the back, when Mrs. Egan checked on the back, there isn't anything on the back. And by the way, do you notice? Did anybody notice that when I was holding it before? That the front of it is this way, but the back of it is this way? I'm not really sure why. We could think about that. Once upon a time in Spain. Anybody notice anything? Black and white. The cover might be gorgeous red, the richest, warmest, most emotional color on the color wheel, but look at our drawings. Well, this was so that Mr. Lawson could show off his skills of drawing. Okay, so we've got all these bulls out here in the pasture. We've got a bit of a town, and then we've got this big castle in the background, right? And some clouds going up. I don't think it's steam or smoke. I don't think so. In Spain, there was a little bull, and his name was Ferdinand. Look at, there he is. He's just a little guy. His name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. See them all running around? Now, we know that they're being very active. We know a couple of reasons. Can you tell? Their tails are up in the air. They're flying. They're not hanging down, right? Their bodies are all in different positions, right? But look at the shadows. See the black, because it's black and white. This is real easy to do. See the shadows? That's the grassy shadows under them. And you can see that they're not even touching the ground most of the time, right? Here he might be touching the ground here, but he's definitely not touching it back here. And this bull might be touching with that one hoof, but the rest of them's not, right? Beautiful drawing of making them really active. And they're going in a bit of an S, right? They were butting their heads together. Why would you want to do that? But not Ferdinand. He wasn't interested in running and jumping and butting heads. There's Ferdinand. Now he's right on top of his shadow, so that means that he's not what? He's not running and jumping, right? He's just walking. Very simple drawing of a page, but we know that we're in a pasture. We know that there's Ferdinand in the middle. We know there's a couple of mountains in the background, and that's all we need to know. He liked to sit just quietly and smell the flowers. Yep, here's Ferdinand. He's in the middle of a spot with a whole bunch of flowers in a flower bed. His tail is here. His hoof is here. He's just lounging, smelling all those flowers. Imagine all the colors they would be if it was in color, huh? He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. He's wandering. Notice that we're seeing him mostly from behind, except this one we see him in the front because he's smelling the flowers, right? He's not really looking at us. And again, we're looking at him walking away. He's going up to his cork tree. Now, a cork tree is a tree that you can make corks out of, but you'll see that Mr. Lawson played around with that a little bit. he draws corks in the tree as if they're fruit or nuts or something, but that's not true. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. So here's Ferdinand. He's just sitting back, leaning against the tree, smelling the flowers under the shade. And look at his silly friends back here. They're running and they're butting their heads. Boy, that would hurt my head. They're hitting heads. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. So girls are cows and boys are bulls, right? Make sure we know that. So Mom, who's a cow, and Ferdinand is her son, so that makes him a bull. She was afraid he would be lonesome. Are we always lonely when we're by ourselves? No. Sometimes being by yourself is lovely. It's peaceful, it's quiet. You don't have to do anything with anybody. You don't have to share anything. You don't have to talk to anybody. Sometimes it's a good thing. Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head? She would say. You know, why aren't you out there doing what everybody else is doing? But Ferdinand would shake his head. No, I like it better here where I can just sit quietly and smell the flowers. His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him just sit there and be happy. So she understood that he was okay. He wasn't lonely. He wasn't there because someone told him he had to be there. He was happy there. She said, okay. She was an understanding mother. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. So look at Mr. Lawson did what I'm sure lots of you do. You go stand somewhere and at like the frame of a door or the inside of a closet or something like that. Sometimes people have things that you can tape up and you mark off how tall you are and how old you are. So down here it says Ferdinand was this big when he was 1 week old. And then he was this tall when he was 3 months old. And Ferdinand was this tall when he was 1 year old. And Ferdinand is this tall when he's 2 years old. And look at how tall he is. 2 years old and he's a bull and he's that big. How many of you have siblings or cousins or neighbors that are 2 years old? Aren't they usually about this big? They grow faster. Bulls grow faster. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. Ow! What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. Now this is true. Madrid has bullfights even to today, okay? And there were places in Spain and other parts of the world where there are bulls that are raised without much interaction with humans so that they are kind of aggressive animals. An animal tends to be more aggressive and wild when they don't interact with humans who, because of safety, we try to get them to be more calm. Well, these bulls, because they were always running and jumping and snorting and butting their heads, they had learned how to be fighters, right? So the thing that they wanted most of all was to be in the ring with the bullfight. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to just quietly sit under the cork tree and smell the flowers. It made him calm and relaxed and happy. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fastest, and roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. Look at these guys. They all have very different looking faces. This guy's got a big mustache. Look at this man's hat. Tall, tall, tall. This guy looks like he has a patch on his eye. Oh dear, that might be scary. A couple of them have things, they look like I think they're smoking. They're like little pipes. This guy's got a little cigarette. Look at his eyes, are like that. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. So here they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's our 5 guys, and they're watching all the other bulls. See? So Mr. Lawson has drawn them so that they're looking like they're moving. Their hooves are off the ground. See the shadow underneath them, so it shows that they're off the ground. This guy's leaping, jumping. This guy's snorting. I don't know if you can see that, but Mr. Lawson drew lines coming out of his nose to show that his nose was making noise, or maybe like spitting out. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care. So he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. And do what? Yep, smell the flowers. So all the butterflies are following Ferdinand. There he goes. A relaxing time in the shade. He didn't look where he was sitting. Now look, can you tell from this picture what's happening? This is a really, really close-up drawing. We were looking at all the other animals from far away, like on this page, right? Hold on. Hold on. See how far away they are on this page? Okay. We're behind the gentleman. Now look where we are. Where are we? We are right next to Ferdinand's butt. There's Ferdinand's butt. There's Ferdinand's tail. And what do we see right here? A bee. Bzzz. He didn't look where he was sitting. And instead of sitting on a nice, cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Bzzz. What is the bumblebee going to do? You know what the bumblebee's going to do. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him. And that is just what this bee did to Ferdinand. Bzzz. Now, has anybody here ever been stung by a bee? Unless you're allergic, it's not a big deal, but it hurts. Okay? Look at Ferdinand's eyeballs. He has just been stung in the butt by a bee. Oh dear. Wow, did it hurt? Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around puffing and snorting, butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. Look it. We don't even see Ferdinand in this page. We see the bee. The bee's a little flustered because he's just stung somebody, and I'm not sure he's going to survive that. And look at, all we see of Ferdinand's 2 back hooves. Where is he? He's way over there. He's jumping and snorting and yowie, yowie. He is hurting. The 5 men saw him and they all shouted in joy. Woohoo! Here was the largest and fiercest bull of all. Just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. Look it. That is Ferdinand. Ferdinand's never done that before, right? What does Ferdinand usually do? He's usually sitting under the tree, sniffing the flowers under the shade, having a little chit-chat with the butterflies. But not today. Not today. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. There he is down here. The cart. It says to Madrid. This is a very famous picture, I understand. That's a real spot between the fields and pastures where the bulls are raised and the town where the bullfight actually takes place. This is a spot that Ferdinand really would have driven. And as far as I know, this is based on a true story. There was a bull who was a very gentle guy, just like Ferdinand, and that's the road that he would have gone to the fights. But think about that. He's going to a bullfight? What's going to happen? What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing. They were all excited that Ferdinand was coming because the bullfight was great entertainment. Kind of like for us, like a big baseball game or a football game, and we want to watch it and we want to have some fun. It's a big day. People go together. It's a big party. They have food to eat. There's songs to sing. They get all dressed up. Look at they're walking through the town. There are flags going. People are hanging out their windows, waving, yeah. And all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. What does Ferdinand do when there are flowers, huh? So here they go, the Galleria. That's where all the people are. See the ladies with the fan? Look at, she even has a Ferdinand on her fan. And all the flowers and the hats. And look at, they've got flags that say Ferdinand because they knew he was coming. Ferdinand the Fierce, they were calling him. They had a parade into the bull ring. Do-do-do-do! Here's a gentleman in a fancy horse all dressed up. And he's blowing the horn. Let's get this party started. First came the bandoleros with long, sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. They were going to stick things into Ferdinand and make him mad? Next came the picadors, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder. Stick in the bull and make him madder. Would you want to be a bull, getting stuck by all that stuff? Just so that they can make you mad? Why would they want to make him mad? Because then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome, and he bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and a sword, and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. That's what they do at a bullfight. So he's got this fancy red cape. Every bullfighter wears it, okay? And here's the gentleman carrying his sword. It's it's supposedly a very brave thing for him once they've got the bull all angry and they've stuck him with all these pokey things, sticks and spears, and then he comes along and he gets the bull to sit down is really what he tries to get him to do, so that he's still standing and the bull is sitting down. Then came the bull. And you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. Now look very closely. The text is the same as it's been in the whole story, but look at how tiny Ferdinand's name is, because the author wanted you to know that Ferdinand at this point is very small. See Ferdinand way over there? There's somebody afraid who's opened the door like, okay, here comes this fierce Ferdinand the fierce bull, and here's Ferdinand. He's just peeking out going like, what's going on? What's the big fuss about? Then came the bull, and you know who that was, don't you? Ferdinand. They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the bandoleros were afraid of him, and the picadors were afraid of him, and the matador, he was scared stiff. He really was afraid of Ferdinand. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring. Woo! Everyone was shouting and clapping because they thought he was going to fight a fierce fight and butt and snort and stick his horns around. What do you think Ferdinand's going to do? Let's see. Here he is. He's walking out to the middle. All those people yelling. See all these those are all people in there. They're all yelling and clapping and hooting and hollering, and Ferdinand goes walking on out to the middle, and he sits down. Not quite what the matador wants him to do. He wants to fight first, and then make him sit down. But he sat down by himself. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers in all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce, no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the bandoleros were mad, and the picadors were madder. And the matador was so mad that he cried because he couldn't show off his cape and his sword. Because at the very end, he would wave the cape, even though the bull can't see the red. He would wave the cape, and the waving of the cape was supposed to make the bull really mad and angry. And he'd pull, scrape the ground, and then he'd rush at him with his horns, right? And then the matador is supposed to stick him with the sword. But Ferdinand just sat there. Nah, no, not interested. Not doing it. See, this guy's jumping up and down. Why isn't this working? So they had to take Ferdinand home. So here's the big ring where they tried to get Ferdinand to fight. Ferdinand wouldn't fight. So here he is back in the cart going back home. Now, if you remember the picture from last time, Ferdinand was looking backwards. Now Ferdinand is looking forwards because he knows he's going home. And for all I know, he is sitting there still under his favorite cork tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. He is very happy. The end. Now that is a very simple story, right? And black and white pictures, but you all know what was going on, even though it was black and white pictures, right? And now we understand the reasoning for the red, okay? It's the most emotional, passionate color. And even though they can't see the red, that's what color a matador's cape is always red, all right? That's tradition, okay? But Ferdinand, you need to know this story because this name is going to come up and it's going to mean something in other places when you get older and you start seeing other things and reading other things and hearing other things. Now, what I want to ask you to do at the end of this, because I think it's a good practice, is after you've read a story that has some ideas and some characters and places, go look them up. Go find out where Spain is. Go find out. Go look up bullfighting. Find out what you want to find. Go look up the color red. Think about all the other things that are red. You can make a list of all the things that are red and see if you can, make a description of them or a definition of them, like Red Cross. Why is the Red Cross the Red Cross? Okay? Why is the Red Sea the Red Sea? Why is the red in the certain place in a rainbow? Where else do you find red? I think there are tons of things you could go look at. You could also go find out about the matador and the picadores, right? All the other guys who, let's see, the 5 men, let's see if I can find their names again. Okay. They wanted him to fight. Let's see if we can find them. The bandoleros, okay? The picadors and the bandoleros. You could look them up and go find out what they were and what part of the bullfighting. Who does bullfighting? Where else in the world do they do bullfighting? And in America, we don't do bullfighting, do we? We do something else. See if you can go figure out what that is, all right? Still today, you can go to places that they wrestle a bull, but they don't hurt him. They usually just try to rope them and knock them down, right? There's all kinds of things from this story that you can go look up. And I would like you to try to start doing that. I think at the end of the stories, I'm going to give you challenges to do that, okay? Just like when we read The Velveteen Rabbit. You could go look up all kinds of things about how rabbits are part of the world. What do they do? You could go look up when the story was written. You could go look up scarlet fever. Actually, scarlet fever, there's a red for you. that pulls together our other story, because scarlet is another name for red, and the reason it was called scarlet fever is because people turned red with fever, right? Oh, there's all kinds of things you could look up. Go have fun doing that, okay? I'll see you next time. The next book, book number 5, is Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel. You might find out if anybody in your family has this story somewhere. I bet a lot of people have. Go ask your parents and your grandparents. I bet most of them have heard of Ferdinand the Bull. Okay? See you later. Bye.